Have you ever heard of the ghost ship of the Mediterranean? Not a pirate legend, but a real, chilling story from 1947. This is the tale of the SS Khot, a ship that sailed into mystery and became a symbol of a desperate journey. Let's rewind to the post-World War II era. Europe is in ruins, and for thousands of Jewish survivors of the Holocaust, the dream of a new life in British-controlled Palestine, the future state of Israel, is their only hope. But there's a huge obstacle: the British White Paper of 1939, which severely restricted Jewish immigration. This policy turned hopeful immigrants into illegal ones in the eyes of the British authorities. To circumvent this blockade, a clandestine network known as Aliyah Bet, or illegal immigration, sprang into action. This was a massive, secret operation dedicated to bringing Jewish refugees to Palestine by sea. They would acquire old, often dilapidated ships, pack them far beyond capacity, and attempt to run the British naval blockade. Every voyage was a gamble, a race against time and authority. This is where our story begins, with a ship named the Four Chaplains. It was an American cargo vessel with a heroic past, named in honor of 4 military chaplains who sacrificed their lives to save others during World War II when their transport ship was torpedoed. After the war, this vessel of honor was decommissioned and sold. In 1947, it was secretly purchased by the Haganah, the main Zionist paramilitary organization in Palestine. The ship was renamed. To the world, it was now the SS Khot. But to the organizers and the hopeful passengers, it had another, more meaningful name: Mohamed Mansour. This name was a clever piece of misdirection, a nod to an Egyptian merchant to create a cover story. The plan was to sail from the port of Sète in southern France, a common departure point for Aliyah Bet ships. Imagine the scene at the port. Under the cover of darkness, thousands of people began to gather. These weren't ordinary travelers. They were families, orphans, elderly people, and young pioneers, all survivors carrying the invisible scars of the Holocaust. They came from displaced persons camps across Europe, traveling secretly to reach the coast. They had very few possessions, but they carried an immense weight of history and an even greater hope for the future. The SS Khot was not designed for passengers. It was a cargo ship. Temporary wooden bunks were hastily constructed in the dark, cavernous holds, stacked 3 or 4 tiers high. There was little ventilation, minimal sanitation, and barely enough space to lie down. But for the nearly 6,000 people who would board, these harsh conditions were a small price to pay for a chance at freedom. The boarding process itself was a logistical nightmare, carried out in secret. French authorities were officially neutral but often turned a blind eye. British intelligence, however, was always watching, trying to intercept these ships before they could even set sail. The atmosphere was thick with tension, a mixture of fear and excitement. Every shadow, every unfamiliar sound could mean discovery. Finally, on July 11, 1947, the SS Khot, packed with an incredible number of souls, slipped out of the harbor. The journey across the Mediterranean had begun. Conditions on board were incredibly difficult. Food and water were strictly rationed. The summer heat in the overcrowded holds was suffocating. Sickness spread quickly. Yet, despite the hardship, a unique community formed. People shared stories, sang songs, and held onto the shared dream that kept them going. They organized themselves, established routines, and looked after one another. The ship became a floating microcosm of a nation waiting to be born. Meanwhile, the British were fully aware of the Khot's voyage. Royal Navy destroyers were dispatched to intercept it. The chase was on. The captain and crew of the Khot, a mix of American Jewish volunteers and Haganah members, knew what was coming. They weren't just sailors, they were part of a mission. As the Khot neared the coast of Palestine, the inevitable confrontation happened. British warships surrounded the vessel. They ordered it to stop. The refugees and crew refused. They unfurled a new banner, revealing the ship's true, symbolic Hebrew name, Exodus 1947. This was no longer just a ship, it was a powerful statement. The British response was swift and forceful. Sailors boarded the Exodus 1947, and a struggle ensued. The passengers, armed with nothing more than cans of food, potatoes, and makeshift clubs, fought back. They weren't soldiers, but they fought with the ferocity of people with nothing left to lose. The struggle was brutal. The British used tear gas, water hoses, and clubs. In the chaos, 3 people on board the Exodus were killed, including a 16-year-old boy and an American crew member, Bill Bernstein. Many more were injured. Ultimately, the unarmed refugees were no match for the armed British military. The Exodus 1947 was captured and towed to the port of Haifa. But the drama was far from over. In a shocking and unprecedented move, the British decided not to send the refugees to internment camps on the island of Cyprus, which had been the standard practice. Instead, British Foreign Secretary Ernest Bevin made a fateful decision to make an example of the Exodus passengers. He ordered them to be sent back to Europe. The refugees were transferred to 3 prison ships, which set sail back to France. The world watched in horror. These were Holocaust survivors being forcibly returned to the continent of their suffering. When the ships arrived back at Port-de-Bouc in France, the passengers staged a protest. They refused to disembark. For 3 weeks, they remained on the prison ships in the sweltering summer heat, staging a hunger strike. Their defiance became a global spectacle. Journalists from around the world flocked to the port, and the story of the Exodus 1947 dominated headlines. The image of Holocaust survivors trapped on prison ships, refusing to set foot back in Europe, created a massive wave of public sympathy and international outrage. The British government was severely criticised for its handling of the situation. Seeing that the passengers would not yield in France, the British made another controversial move. They ordered the ships to sail to the British-occupied zone of Germany. Imagine the psychological terror of that decision, forcing Jewish survivors back to the very country where the genocide had been orchestrated. In September 1947, the ships docked in Hamburg. The passengers were forcibly removed and taken to displaced persons camps in Germany. It seemed like a devastating defeat. They had been so close to their dream, only to be sent back to a nightmare. But the story of the Exodus 1947 was not a failure. In fact, it was a turning point. The affair had exposed the bankruptcy of British policy to the entire world. The immense international pressure and negative publicity played a crucial role in shaping the debate at the United Nations, which was then considering the future of Palestine. The plight of the Exodus passengers galvanized support for the creation of a Jewish state. Many historians believe the Exodus affair was a key factor that influenced the UN Special Committee on Palestine and ultimately the UN's decision to vote in favor of the partition plan in November 1947, which paved the way for the establishment of the State of Israel in May 1948. The ship once known as the SS Khot never sailed again. It remained in Haifa Harbor, a burnt-out but powerful symbol. In 1952, it was sadly destroyed by a fire, but its legacy endured. The story of the Exodus 1947 became a foundational myth of the new State of Israel, immortalized in books, songs, and the famous 1960 film Exodus starring Paul Newman. The tale of the Khot, or Exodus 1947, is more than just a story about a ship. It's a story about human resilience, the unyielding desire for freedom, and the power of a symbolic act to change the course of history. It reminds us that sometimes the most profound victories emerge from what first appears to be a crushing defeat. Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button, subscribe for more historical deep dives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.